Her 9000's Game Room.
Outrun was an arcade driving video game developed and published by Sega. It was released into arcades in Japan in September 1986, with its American and European releases following before the end of the year. The game was very well known for many reasons, including its graphics, its non-linear gameplay, an amazing selection of selectable music tracks, and in particular for its amazing hydraulic motion simulator deluxe arcade cabinet, which was such a sight to behold. When I first saw it in the arcades as a child, it was amazing. I was born in 1981, so the first time I'd seen this I'd have been a pretty young kid, so the machine seemed like this giant shining beacon of fun. The game was designed by Yo Suzuki, who apparently visited Europe to gain inspiration for the game's stages. This sounds like a pretty expensive step in designing a game. On hearing that, you'd think that Sega had given Suzuki bags of cash, and yet he only had a small team to work on the game, and they were only given 10 months to develop it. The game was a huge success though, both critically and commercially. In fact, it was apparently the highest grossing arcade game of 1987 worldwide. Not only that though, it was also Sega's most successful arcade cabinet of the entire 1980s. So I bet you can guess what this kind of success leads to, right? It led to a whole bunch of ports to lots of video game consoles and home computers. In fact, Outrun became one of the best-selling video games at the time, selling millions of copies worldwide and spawning a number of sequels. You read the title when you clicked on this though, so you know what I'm going to be talking about. That's right, I'm going to be talking about the Sega Master System port. Even though this game might look a little basic by nowadays standards, you have to try to put yourself into the position people would have been in at the time. In 1987, the Master System released in Europe. People often compare it to the NES and see it as Sega's response to this, but in truth, in England at least, very few people had even seen a NES. We were mostly weaned on various microcomputers, some of which, even after taking an age to load, couldn't display enough colours to challenge the drawings you'd done in school at the age of 5, let alone an arcade machine's visuals. In my humble opinion, the Master System port of Outrun really manages to overcome the limitations of its hardware to deliver what at the time would have been an absolutely stunning home video game experience. Sure, it's not the equal of its arcade counterpart, but it certainly would have felt pretty close to a kid back in those days. Outrun is, at least on the surface, a very simple game. It's a driving game where you're not racing against any individual. Sure, there are cars on the road which get in the way, but they're not your opponent. The only opponent you have is the clock. You have to beat the clock and make sure that you keep on reaching the next checkpoint before the timer hits 0. This basic premise works almost perfectly on the Master System. The game feels pretty much just like it did in the arcade, and that's the most important part of any conversion. The visuals have received the expected downgrade, but it's very clear that a whole lot of effort went into providing the same variety of settings seen in the arcade game. The game features the same beach track, the same rolling green fields, the same nighttime driving. This game looks so much clearer than my previously reviewed game Space Harrier. Obviously it's a step down from the arcade, but enough detail is provided in both the foreground and the background to create a proper game world that you feel more than happy travelling through. Sound-wise, the music in Outrun on the Master System is great, but there is some difference depending on how you're playing. If you're playing a European game, you'll get what they call PSG sound. If you're using Japanese hardware with an FM chip in it, or hardware modded to add the FM chip, or you're using an emulator with FM, then things will sound quite different. In honesty, I like both kinds of sound. The music is good no matter how you're playing your Master System copy of Outrun. The only thing I'm not majorly keen on is the skidding tyre sound. It's an annoying sound, and to be honest, it's too loud in relation to the music. That's the one thing here that I would change if I could. Overall, I'd give Outrun on the Master System an 8 out of 10. I think it's one of the very best arcade ports on the system. Its only limitations for me come from being based on an arcade machine. Arcade ports can be a lot of fun, but these games are essentially written from the ground up to munch on coins and provide quick thrills, so they don't have the sort of content that it takes to play for hours and hours again and again in a home setting. If you want a cart of this game, then CEX charge £10 for it when they have a loose cart, with the copies I can find elsewhere online going for a little bit more. But this is a game where I actually kind of think it's worth hunting out a copy. Okay, that's Kerr9000 signing off saying keep on playing those games. Laters, taters. Hi, it's Kerr9000. Thank you for checking out my video and for making it to the end. If you'd like to subscribe, then there'll be a little thing for you to click on right near the end, and you'll also see a link to one of my videos and one of my playlists. I make reviews of horror films, both modern and retro video game reviews, science fiction film reviews, and all kinds of other stuff. I even show off some of my collection. You can also find me on the Retro Gamer Unofficial Forum, which is a great place for retro gaming chat, and it keeps on growing every day. It's well worth checking out. Once again, thank you very much and have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye.